Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we allowed enough time for people to join us. So let's kickstart this very interesting webinar on Waterwise Solutions Databases. It's a training webinar, and it's co-organized by W12 and UNESCO's Regional Office for Southern Africa on Science and Technology. So my name is Alexandros Makarigakis. I am responsible for the global coordination of water for human settlements of the future in UNESCO. And I have the honor and pleasure to present you today, to moderate at least the opening session of today. Now, before we start, I want to mention some housekeeping rules. As you realize, this meeting will be recorded and held in English. We have a chat box. Please use it to communicate with the webinar organizers. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to write them down and then put them in the QA box, right? So then we will address these questions shortly after your presentation. And then during the discussion, you have to raise your hand in order for us to see and to address you. And then, of course, you will be able to unmute your microphone and talk, right? And now, as far as the whole program concerns, you can see right on your screen how the webinar will roll. We will have the opening session that I'm moderating with the representatives of the two organizations. Then Ms. Linning will pick up the moderation of the next session, which is basically the more context-related session. And it will talk, have a demonstration of the software, and it will present a couple of case studies, one on mobile technology for enhanced water security, and another on conservation for a water-wise future. And then we will have proposed next steps and a user guide. We will have our Q&A session, which of course will be accompanied by an open discussion. And last but not least, we'll have the closing. So this will be the overall program. And now let's start a little bit with the introductions. We know that water has finally been able to mount the interest of decision makers globally. And these decision makers dedicated an entire sustainable development goal to it, that of Sustainable Development 6. So we went from the Millennium Development Goals, where water was just a sub-indicator of the environmental indicator, to actually having a goal on its own. Regardless of these efforts, we realize that we are falling back in achieving this goal, SDG 6. The UN Water Synthesis Report stated clearly that we're lacking behind in the achievement of SDG 6. We have close to 850 million people who lack access to clean water, close to 2 billion people who use a source of drinking water which is contaminated. We know that 80% of wastewater returns to the environment without any treatment, and that by 2030 there will be a 40% gap between water availability and water demand. So we need solutions. If we need solutions, we need to start thinking about solutions that will be sustainable, that are well accepted by the communities to the degree possible, use innovation and technology within them. But enough for the introductory part. Today, I will have the pleasure to moderate, like I said, the opening session. And our first speaker is Dr. Koen Verbist, who's working at our UNESCO office for Southern Africa. It's a regional office based in Zimbabwe. And he is responsible for the implementation of the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program in the region, as well as the Man and Biosphere Program for Southern Africa. Particularly in Southern Africa, he has been supporting the implementation of flood and drought risk management strategies and to address climate change impacts on water security. He has led the development of the Drought Atlas and the setup of flood and drought monitoring system for countries in the region. More recently, he has supported the development of a novel approach to address climate change impacts on water resources and to identify appropriate adaptation pathways. Koen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alex, for the introduction. And first of all, of course, I would like to give you all a warm welcome from Southern Africa, and particularly on behalf of our director, Professor Hubert Geisen, from the UNESCO Regional Office from Southern Africa, based in Harare, here in Zimbabwe. As we have seen, of course, climate change impacts, particularly in this region, have resulted in an increase in the frequency and intensity of water-related extreme events such as droughts, floods, cyclones. And of course, this has resulted in a lot of loss of lives, property, water and food insecurity, as well as an increased pressure on already stressed economies. Also, of course, the impact on cities can be devastating, as we have seen in the case of Cape Town when we saw it approaching day zero conditions. But also in other cities close by, such as Bulawayo, just a few 100 kilometers from here, conditions were quite severe recently. With these water-related hazards on the increase, there's of course a need to have solutions to address water scarcity in cities. And that has been an essential element to address. Through the SADC Integrated Water Resource Management Initiative, or SADC-WIN, UNESCO has put up a framework through which we are supporting our member states in the SADC region to address their water resources challenges. As part of this framework, exchange of lessons learned is of critical importance to make sure that we can share the solutions as well as adopt good practices. Therefore, I would like to give you an introduction on the SADC-WIN framework before we dive into the water solutions database by our colleagues. Let me just share briefly a presentation on that. Okay. So, okay, second. All right, all should go well. You should be able to see this. All right. So the SADC Integrated Water Resource Management Initiative was developed as a response to the frequent events and the recurrent droughts and floods that we've seen in the region, and a way to address a bit more long-term water resource management initiative. It was also guided by a gaps and needs assessment at SADC level. And I just highlight some elements which are quite relevant today in this meeting, where there's actually a limited scaling up and demonstrations of innovations, a limited exchange of solutions and good practices, but also a limited scientific research and innovation capacity to be shared around the region. And of course, the challenges become more serious because of COVID-19. Therefore, in 2014, they put up a SADC-WIN approach, and I'm just gonna dive into the 4 pillars and give some examples of what UNESCO is doing to address these challenges. In terms of pillar 1, we are supporting member states in terms of strengthening planning, policies, and strategies. For example, related to the national framework of climate services in several countries, such as Zimbabwe, but also supporting, for example, South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, with the setup of the transboundary aquifer system for the Stampriet transboundary aquifer. And that's part of the governance of groundwater resources in transboundary aquifer project, or GRETA. But also, as Alex already mentioned, we have been engaged quite actively since 2011 by setting up regional drought and flood monitors, which now have become more localized, more tailored. So we're actually moving towards national versions, and we launched already in Zimbabwe and Mozambique pilot versions, which will be developed over the next few months and years. But also for Namibia, Malawi, South Africa, we'll have initial activities launched in that respect in 2021. In the same sense, we're also using what we call UNESCO designated sites, in this case, biosphere reserves, where we're empowering them to become observatories for climate change adaptation in Southern Africa. It's also, again, focusing on floods, droughts, and landslides, but in this case, engaging actively the communities in those biosphere reserves to use citizen science concepts to bring elements into maturity. In terms of pillar 3, we have elements of innovation, demonstration, action, research, and learning alliances. And actually today's workshop and activity falls under this pillar. But also other elements, for example, are bigger projects where we demonstrate the use of sustainable groundwater use in Zimbabwe, piloting integrated water resource management systems in 2 drought-prone districts. You can see, for example, that here, some of the schools really don't have access to water, also limiting schooling options for those communities. Beyond that, also, we're just starting a new project on building adaptive capacities in South Africa's biosphere reserve. So that's close to Cape Town, as well as other areas in the country, where we will be supporting those areas in setting up long-term impact assessment of climate change and other drivers on sustainable water and ecosystem management. And of course, the topic of today is about a database on solutions for water-stressed cities, or in general, waterwise solutions for urban water challenges. And that will be presented by our colleagues from W12. And finally, also, I wanted to highlight the work we're doing in terms of institutional and human capacity building, as well as awareness raising. In this sense, and because of COVID-19 also, last year we launched an UNESCO open learning platform that you can access under the address openlearning.unesco.org, where we actually launched several open access courses for different topics related to the SADC WIN approach. The first one was already on climate risk informed decision analyses, which provides a bottom-up methodology to integrate uncertainty of climate change as well as other drivers in long-term water resources planning. But also related to groundwater governance, a course was launched, attended by more than 500 learners. And a recent course on groundwater modeling was specifically targeted to Southern Africa. Also, new courses in the pipeline on groundwater quality that will be available in a few weeks from now. And then just recently, 2 days ago, we launched the online course on programming for water applications, specifically open source tools for managing spatial data for water management, with already more than 1,200 learners that have registered. And you can still join that course if you want. And also, a final course I want to announce also is the upcoming course on resilient schools and disaster risk reduction. Of course, we also want to make sure that our schools are well planned in terms of safety. And in this sense, the learner will be taught resilient schools and education topics to strengthen specifically disaster risk reduction, disaster risk management applications for school facilities. That will start just in a few weeks from now. And with that, I just give it back to you, Alex, and for the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Koen, and thank you for informing our audience on all the extremely interesting activities that you have been able to initiate in the region. Now, without further ado, I will try to introduce our next two speakers who are coming from W12. First and foremost, I have Mr. Rene Frank, who has a master's in civil engineering from DTU and an MBA from INSEAD. He has a unique and creative approach to developing strategic content, effectively translating messaging and through an interactive technology, smart experiences, branding content, different shows and community experiences that have been featured across the globe. He also developed his own intellectual properties that focus on water, environmental, and climate change issues, including the W12 concept that brought us today to here, and the first framework for a best practice major city water recovery plan. He is a regular speaker in events, industry meetings, and conferences. Along with Rene, we have Ms. Ellie Linning, who is the project lead for W12 Plus and the project's director at the Institute for Ecological Civilization, one of the two organizing partners of W12 Plus. She has graduate degrees in environmental studies, as well as project management and research experience across a variety of international development subsectors, including not only water security, but also food systems, wildlife economies, and housing finance. With W12 Plus, she is responsible for strategic oversight of all W12 Plus programs and ensures quality control and mission alignments of W12 Plus programmatic activities. Ellie's work particularly focused on the W12 Plus hubs, as well as the W12 Plus Blueprint and research projects related to water security. Colleagues, the floor is yours.
Welcome here from beautiful Cape Town, the place where it all started 3 years ago. My name is Rene Frank, and I'm the chairman of W12 and the non-profit organization SOS NPO. Thanks to my very talented team here at W12 Plus and UNESCO IHP, we're proud to present you with the launch of the testing phase of the W12 Plus Blueprint. W12 Plus is brought to you by SOS NPO, a South African NGO working on the ground in the African continent, providing water and sanitation to the people most in need. And our partners from the US, the Institute for Ecological Civilization, or ECOCIV for short. It's a US nonprofit organization based in California. They work through facilitation, research, and solution design to promote the long-term well-being of people and the planet. ECOCIV and SOS work is highly compatible, and we work both on the ground and with direct impact at a higher level to change system and structures and influence global discourse. Next slide. So what is W12? W12 Plus is a movement that catalyzes, connects, and incubates urban water solution. Through 5 distinct programs plus consulting functions, W12 Plus builds awareness of existing solutions and future innovations in the water sector. We are proud to say that we bring brave ideas to life to combat the global water crisis. W12 Plus drives focus on investment and opportunities in the water sector, and most of all offers a role of connecting people over our 5 programs, which you will hear a lot more about in the next few minutes. As you can see, W12 Plus works with cities all over the world, and our partner and city network is fast growing, so please be sure to check it out on our new website, which is at www.w12plus.org, and you have to spell the word plus out. There you can see the growing network. It is kept up to date all the time, and we are trying to keep you all updated also on our social platforms. We have over the past year and a half launched several initiatives via our innovative and unique events, and we are bringing even more to life over the next 12 months. We do it in a combination of both online and hybrid events and in-person gatherings where the ongoing pandemic will allow us. We're super proud of our partnership, and I would like to take this chance to really thank UNESCO ISP for their support on the W12 Blueprint program. I will now proudly hand over to my W12 Plus program director, Ellie Liening, to take you through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Rene, and thank you to UNESCO IHP and UNESCO ROSA for all your support and for jointly organizing this webinar together with us today. Thank you for all of the attendees for joining us. We're thrilled about the interest and excited to have you here and hopefully get your feedback on this platform that we're creating. As Rene mentioned, the W12 Plus movement consists of 5 programs: the W12 Plus exchanges, hubs, Congress, drive-in, and Blueprint, for which we're all here today. These programs function through convenings, facilitation, and research, bringing together global change agents, innovators, local leaders, financiers, and more to drive long-term solutions to pervasive issues of water scarcity. We bring diverse stakeholders together to talk through these issues. This picture was taken at our conference on cities facing escalating water shortages last year at the University of the Western Cape in South Africa, our last in-person event before COVID-19 hit. We also conduct research for entities like the Economist Intelligence Unit and facilitate the uptake of new solutions with partners like UNESCO IHP. You may have caught our recent W12 Plus exchange, which is part of a 3-part accelerator series called Breaking the Cycle, COVID-19 and Water Security. We hold these exchange events periodically throughout the year as fully online dialogues that dive deep into specific topics and allow thought leaders to explore particular issues and connect with relevant stakeholders. Our next W12 Plus exchange will be on March 18th and will feature leaders on the ground or working directly with change makers on solutions to water scarcity during COVID-19 that can prompt long-term water-wise solutions. We also work with local institutes in distinct regions to facilitate the uptake of long-term solutions to urban water issues and bring key stakeholders together for action based on priority challenges and opportunities jointly identified by our research team and the local partner institute. Right now, we're working with partners at Water for South Sudan, developing an Equatorial Africa hub. We're in the research and planning phase of this project, identifying key challenges and opportunities across the region and designing roundtable workshops to prompt initiatives or partnerships for solutions that would be catalytic for water security in the region. We also hold innovative events like W12 Plus drive-ins to celebrate solutions, drive partnerships, and encourage those in the water sector to work together to provide solutions for key water issues. You may have seen our first drive-in event, which was held in October in Cape Town and streamed live globally. There's some awesome pictures on the screen. Our next drive-in will be held on April 22nd in Johannesburg and also will be live streamed virtually. You can find the replay of our first drive-in on YouTube. And once it's safe to meet again in large groups, we will come together for the W12 Plus Congress, an annual event that will be held in cities around the world featuring water solutions and driving conversations for change with a particular focus on innovative finance and public-private civil society partnerships. And finally, what we're all here for today. These programs all come together in the W12 Plus Blueprint for Waterwise Solutions. We want to highlight and share existing solutions to key water issues and provide a network for cities and those working on urban water challenges to learn from each other. We're thrilled to present the W12 Plus Blueprint in its beta form to you today. I'm pleased to introduce Anna Hickson, the W12 Plus analyst who's led the development of the blueprint, for a brief overview of the concept and the software. Anna is an environmental researcher with specific interests in the connections between environmental and human health. Anna has been leading the development of the W12 Plus Blueprint from its inception to where it is today, and she'll continue to be leading the process of editing this. We'll then hear from Maya Miko Nkoloma and Alderman Xanthia Limburg, who will speak about notable success stories in water security. After these presentations, Anna will talk through the next steps and ways to get involved, and then we'll have a brief question and answer session. Anna?
Share my screen here. Can everyone see that okay? Yes. All right. Thank you, Ellie, and good morning, everyone. I realize many of you are probably ending your day, but I get to start mine with sharing the W12 Plus Blueprint with you, and I'm very excited about that today. So what is the W12 Plus Blueprint? The Blueprint is a web-based platform and networking tool that will serve as an essential resource for cities that are facing water challenges. The Blueprint will be a place to collect and synthesize existing data and research into short case studies on innovative solutions for urban water security. It will provide easy access to resources and information that are often only available in the private sector or academia. Through these short case studies and our peer-to-peer networking function, the Blueprint will connect city water leaders with solutions and allow them to engage and share knowledge with one another. So at W12, we know that the issues within the water sector and within global water security are many, but focusing all of our energy on issues keeps the innovative and the unique solutions that come up every day hidden. So the Blueprint, by and large, is a solutions-based platform. We can use issues to relate cities to one another, but as we move forward, we want to use solutions to collaborate with one another. And as I navigate over to the Blueprint, we enlarge here. So welcome to the beta and/or the testing version of the W12 Plus Blueprint. We are excited. I'm actually going to stop my video so I can show this better. We're excited to share this new platform with you all today. This demo and this webinar are introductions to the platform and our tools to gather feedback from you, the potential users, on the functionality, the content, and the overall usefulness of the platform. I will discuss the opportunities for testing and the feedback process a little bit later on in this webinar. So upon entering the application, you can navigate through using the taskbar at the top or through the search function. If we click on case studies, which I hopefully will if my Zoom moves, there we go. You'll see a current list of our case studies. As we collaborate with more organizations and synthesize more research, this list will continue to grow. Right now, we have information on implementing rainwater harvesting policies, nature-based solutions, mobile technology, and more. And since Maya Miko will be speaking next, I'd like to show you the case study page for mobile technology for enhanced water security. So here on the case study page, you can read through the case study narrative that is broken up into sections. There's a short summary, a brief introduction to the issue, the intervention, the outcomes, the challenges to the intervention, as well as post-intervention. You can explore our references, and you can also look into similar initiatives. And these links here will actually open a new tab, so you never have to navigate away from the blueprint. Here on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see contact information for a program or project representative. You'll be able to explore the relationship between our case studies with our solutions. So studies will be tagged with these solutions, which will link to other studies. These tags are not prescriptions, but rather a means of connecting similar case studies to one another. Below the solutions, you'll be able to see relevant case studies. And these are case studies that share common solutions. If we want to navigate the blueprint by using solutions, such as cultural and civil society oriented solutions, here we'll see a sample list of the studies associated to this tag. We can navigate to conservation for a waterwise future. Here, we'll see the same setup of the case study page, and one other function within our case study pages is the collaborate function. Here, users of the blueprint will be able to comment, ask questions to either the W12 Plus team or actually pose them to all other users of the blueprint. We view this collaborate function as the very beginning stage for our peer-to-peer knowledge sharing within the blueprint. You can then also navigate to the city pages by clicking cities in the taskbar or by selecting the link above the case study photo. And on the city page, you'll be able to see a short summary on the city's relationship with water. If you're interested in learning a bit more, you can actually download a longer city profile in the file section. On the left-hand side, each city will have their case studies listed. As we build out the functionality within the blueprint, we will connect cities with similar issues. This will include things like increased flooding events, increased drought, inadequate financing within the water sector, and more. Additionally, each city will have a contact information for a city representative. This information is critical, especially for government and policy level initiatives. And as I wrap up here, I want to remind you that the blueprint will be a platform that prioritizes sharing solutions, no matter their complexity. With that being said, this testing phase is one opportunity for you to provide your feedback on the functionality, the usefulness, and the content of this tool. Your feedback as potential users will help ensure that we create the most comprehensive and catalytic platform available. We believe that by sharing solutions, we have a greater chance at securing a water-wise future for all. We can take local solutions and inspire global action. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and answering any questions that you may have. And Ellie, back to you.
Thanks, Anna. It's really exciting to see this come to life. And as I look out at all the Zoom boxes and over 100 people in attendance right now, I'm just so intrigued about all the solutions you may know of, and we would love to feature them on the platform moving forward. So as we're presenting this, please keep that in mind, and please do be in touch, because that's the whole purpose of this. So I'm now pleased to introduce our first guest speaker, Mayamiko Nkoloma. Mayamiko is a lecturer in telecommunications at the Polytechnic University of Malawi. He has graduate degrees in wireless communications and technology with specializations in telecommunications and technology from several internationally renowned universities within Malawi, the UK, and India. Using his extensive knowledge and experience in telecommunications and computer programming, he aims to provide solutions through which beneficial, affordable, and reliable up-to-date information and communications technology services can be derived, implemented, and sustained to meet communication demands of people in developing countries. Further, Mayamiko is passionate about building technological solutions with an aim of solving challenges and making life better. Mayamiko is the proprietor and CEO of iMosis, a growing Malawian tech company, which is championing, developing, and deploying Internet of Things applications to enable connectivity for remote monitoring of industrial processes, infrastructure, and environmental aspects. The firm is pioneering the development of smart water management systems, which are being adopted by water utility companies in Malawi. iMosis was recognized in 2017 and 2018 by the International Telecommunications Union as an SME applying ICT solutions with greatest social impact. Mayamiko is an innovative CEO and lecturer who has developed solutions that are not only adopted locally in his country of Malawi, but have found themselves embraced across the world in countries like Kuwait and the United Kingdom. Mayamiko, we're so pleased to have you today and to feature your work in the W12 Blueprint. The floor is yours.
Yeah, no, I'm humbled to be here with you all at W12. I'm excited. I really don't know where to start. The intro has been perfect, and I think I don't have much to say on that, but maybe I'll go direct into my presentation. Can I proceed?
Yes, you should be able to share directly, and if you have any issues, we can share on our side as well.
All right. Okay. All right. So today I'll be talking about a case study which we are doing in Malawi, just to show how we can use mobile technology to enhance issues or to solve water problems. The project is mainly looking into rural communities or low-income communities, because this is where we have major issues to do with water. So in our rural areas, about 5.6 million people don't have access to clean running water. So the only way where they go and collect water is through kiosks. So you can see a communal kiosk here in the picture. There's a kid there and with some pails of water to collect. So they will take this water and they will take it to their homes because they don't have direct connectivity of water to their houses. These kiosks are managed by a person, which means that when that person is not available, then it means these rural communities don't have access to water. So that's where we are coming in to solve those challenges through the use of mobile technology. So I will talk in terms of the water utility side, because it's the water utility company that actually offers water to these communities. So I will speak by looking at the solutions which we are solving to them. So as I've already indicated, I said that these communal water kiosks are managed by a human being. And you know, a human being is corrupt in nature, and he receives money from the community because, you know, it's clean water, it's treated, it's expensive, it's not free. And then no one knows where the money goes. So there is an accountability of revenue collection, and the water utility company is interested in knowing where that money goes, because that money is actually used in ensuring that the kiosks are working. You know, it's a cheap water, and many of the collection are not used by the board or by the utility company. The monies are actually used to assist in the maintenance of the kiosks to ensure that there's continued supply of clean water to the communities. So these are the key main problems. There are about 2 of them, which we are trying to solve. So we came up with a pilot project. At first, we started only with 5 kiosks, but the results from the project itself actually sent shockwaves, not only in the country, but also outside the country, whereby we have more service providers interested in the solution. So we started with 5, but now we are growing bigger and bigger and bigger, whereby more kiosks are being connected or they are being automated. So the case study, actually, the location is in Malawi, Lilongwe, which is our capital city. The facilitator is the water utility company, we call it Lilongwe Water Board, that ensures that everyone has access to clean water in the capital city. And it's been supported by World Bank, and there are other project partners who are also coming in by looking at the fruits or the output of the project, like JICA and other donors who want to, you know, give them more funds so that more kiosks are actually automated. And myself and my team at IMOSIS are the ones who actually provide the solution. So we're looking at the electronics and software and everything to ensure that the water kiosk is automated. In simple terms, you can look at it as a normal ATM whereby you go and collect money. But now in this case, the kiosk doesn't produce money, it produces water. So we have given cards to each and every household, and these cards are loaded with money, and they'll go to a kiosk tap and select amount of water. If there's credit in the card, then water will actually come out. So in this case, you see that there's now, we've taken out the need of having an attendant. There's no human intervention. And in this case, it ensures that people have access to water 24/7 anytime during the day, even at night, because it's also powered by solar. This is an overall architecture of the solution. So if you look to the left, you know, it's more like a box with a card reader, and it does the intelligence of knowing that in the card there's credit or not, and then it will allow the user to get water. And that unit is powered by solar, and it also integrated with mobile technology, because that data, we want to see what is going on. We want to know how the community is consuming water. We want to know on the sales, the revenue, so that you know, everything is transparent. And now we use cellular communication to a server, which we have somewhere to keep the data, to archive the data, and also to enable the billing configuration of the cards and everything. This also technology, you can see somewhere, it's also linked to mobile money payments. As you know, in Africa, mobile payments are now becoming more popular. And it's also been crucial because now, because of the COVID world, we are no longer interested in money-to-money sharing from one person to another. So mobile money seems like an ideal. So households can buy water using mobile money platform. And also it also helps us people in cities to assist our grannies, to assist our relatives in the villages by buying them water through the use of mobile money payments. So it's quite interesting and innovative idea. The solution is actually made of 3 main components. I'll start with the component that you can see right in the middle of the screen. It's a touch screen, a panel, and you can see numbers like 10L, which is 10 liter, 20 liter, 30 liter, and 40 liters. So this is a 2-lane, so it's supporting 2 pipes. So there's 1 lane To the left, tap 1, and there's also another second line, tap 2. So this ensures that the traffic is managed, because sometimes, more especially in the morning hours, everyone wants to collect water to go and bath or to use it for breakfast. So you do have long queues. So to eliminate those long queues, we said, okay, let's handle 2 lanes, so that at least people shouldn't spend more time waiting for water. So how it works is quite simple. A person just comes and tap anywhere, depending on how much water the person needs. For example, it's 40 liter, we'll just tap on 40 liter and then we'll put a card which scans. So when there's credit in the card, then water will automatically come out. And all that transaction is recorded and sent to an online management system, which actually looks at each and every transaction, which actually, gives all the statistics on the payments and also on the usage of water. On the far left, what you see is a small box, plastic, which we've also put into the kiosk. It's installed inside the kiosk. That one is installed as a redundant issue, or in cases whereby a rural or a villager doesn't have mobile money or doesn't have a cell phone. So you can just go to the kiosk, assuming that you meet an attendant and will assist him to recharge the card. And that unit is also linked to the cellular network, and all transactions that happen on that particular unit are actually translated and transmitted to our local server. This is just an explanation, because some of the things that we also need to look into is technology, and we're looking at rural areas, people who are not so close to technology, because technology is only concentrated in the cities. So, we have to make it simple for them, easy to use, because we are in the city and they're in the villages. So we go to them with innovative solutions. But if the innovative solutions are complicated, you'll find that it's nothing. The project will not work. So this is just like a summary of more like training material which we give to the communities to know how they can use the solution. As you can see, it is in our local language, but I just shared so that you may actually appreciate. This is also another look of how the manual look, but now in terms of how to operate the machine. So it's quite easy, just tap and put the card and then water actually comes out. So we want to make the solution quite simple to ensure that even an old person should be able to have access to the technology. And this has been key for the success of this particular project, because of the simplicity, ease of use, and also flexibility in knowing each and every transaction that happens on each and every kiosk. And this actually gives hope for the service provider, because the water is not just lost, but actually they're able to count each and every drop. And it's important for them, for the maintenance purposes of the installations. These are just the pictures taken from one of the kiosks, just to show that it's solar powered. So we put a solar panel on top, and we have batteries. There's a cage to the far right. Villages, theft is a problem. People would want to steal. So we also ensure that the installations are secure. We don't have to go today and you find that tomorrow the installations are being taken away from the people, from the malicious people who would want to use the solar panels or the batteries for other activities. So we make sure that the installations are secure, so that people, they're not taken away from them. By using solar, it's quite good, because it ensures that the solution is available 24/7, and people can go there and collect water anytime, even during the night. Because in the past, most of these kiosks would only open for 3 hours in the morning and maybe 3 hours in the evening. So you see that there's a lot of time in between where people will not have access to clean water. But with this solution, people are able to have access to water anytime during the day through the use of the sun energy. So the water management server, which I've also indicated, because all this traffic that is collected from the remote site goes to a server that does all the reporting to enable the utility to have understanding of the water usage, and also to provide finance data to know that how much they've been sold and things like that. And also at the same time, it is also a tool that is used to alert the technical people that a kiosk is down, because sometimes they might not know that people don't have access to water because there's no one that can report to. But with the solution, we are able to capture faults and generate alerts to people on the ground who can run around and go and repair these kiosks. And it also offers a billing solution and the water card activation, the card which we indicated quite earlier. This is just a view of the dashboard. It's just analytics showing different kiosks, how much has been captured in that day, how much money has been spent, and how much has been collected. So in conclusion, it's a simple but powerful solution. It dispenses safe and pure water 24/7 around the year. People can purchase water on pay-per-use basis whenever they want, anytime during the day. It's easy to install. Sometimes you don't have to complicate technology. So it's easy to install to ensure that it can easily be replicated in areas, even in situations whereby you might not have people with strength technically. It's 100% renewable energy, and we've also discussed the importance of that. And it's also easy to monitor the funds by the water service provider, because each and every transaction is actually recorded. And in such case, there is accountability. Everyone knows what is going on. There's no theft activity. There's no corruption. There's nothing. And every drop is actually accounted for, and to ensure that it reaches to the people. So in summary, I think this is what I would share with you today on the solution that we have done in Malawi, more especially in Lilongwe, but it's been adopted. Everyone is excited about it, and it's been adopted across the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayamiko. We're very proud to feature the detailed case study of the Imadzi initiative on the W12 Blueprint. And Mayamiko will also be joining us at the upcoming W12 Exchange on March 18th. So be sure to tune in there and hear more details about what he's working on. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Alderman Xanthia Limburg from the City of Cape Town. It's worth noting that Cape Town's 2018 water crisis was the impetus for W12 itself. We saw how the city and its leadership, as well as civil society, business, and more, came together in moments of crisis, and we wanted to share those lessons learned with the rest of the world, as climate change and population growth, particularly in urban areas, makes similar crises, unfortunately, very likely elsewhere. Alderman Limburg is currently the mayoral committee member for water and waste of the City of Cape Town. She also sits on the Planning Appeals Advisory Panel, as well as other specialized task teams. She previously held the posts of mayoral committee member for informal settlements, water, waste services, and energy, and was a mayoral committee member for corporate services and compliance. Prior to being a member of the mayoral committee, she previously served as portfolio chairperson for economic development, environment and spatial planning, as well as the Energy and Climate Change Committee. Alderman Limburg is also the city's representative on the South African Local Government Association's National Executive Council. Alderman Limburg, we're so pleased to have you here with us today. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, and I'm so incredibly thankful for the opportunity. As part of my address today, I'm going to be sharing a video, but just for connectivity purposes, if it is in order, I'm going to switch off my video during the presentation and then switch it back on if that's okay. I trust that everyone can see my presentation. So in starting off, perhaps I just want to say, as for purposes of background, the recent drought that Cape Town has experienced has probably in many terms, or in terms of the view of many, been relatively well documented to date. But overwhelmingly, Cape Town also became globally known as the city to have nearly run out of water. But in reality, this is only part of the story. And today I wish to take the opportunity to share much of the rest of the story. At the same time that Cape Town experienced its severe drought, a global research institute tells us that 153 cities across the world experienced severe water need. And in fact, some, including some cities in South Africa, had to resort to trucking in water and implementing extreme measures of water rationing. Cape Town was able to largely steer clear of this by adapting and learning from this experience to shape a very different and more sustainable water future, one in which Cape Town aims to become more resilient in terms of dealing with future drought risks. Cape Town, like the rest of municipalities in South Africa, relies on surface water from dams. These dams are largely owned and managed by the National Department of Water and Sanitation. And the city of Cape Town receives the bulk of its water supply from the 6 largest dams within the Western Cape water supply system. The system is also overseen by the National Department of Water and Sanitation and provides supply to other users within the system, such as agriculture and smaller municipalities within the Western Cape province. This image on the screen before you depicts dams at 100% capacity towards the end of 2013, the beginning of 2014. And just 3 years later, dam levels severely dropped as low as 19%. The 3 years of below average rainfall has been described as a 1 in 590-year event based on historical rainfall records. And this merely emphasizes how truly unprecedented this particular drought was. Dams and the related systems supplying water to urban areas in South Africa are generally designed to provide a 98% supply assurance. And this means that once in every year, there's about a 98% probability that there is sufficient water supply to meet demand. But this does not mean that there will only be water restrictions imposed once every 50 years. The general rule for operating under drought conditions is based on the principle that there will be more light water restrictions imposed more frequently and more severe water restrictions imposed less frequently. But the additional uncertainties associated with climate change now has to be factored into our water future planning, which the City of Cape Town intends on doing. But the success of being able to effectively manage and overcome a crisis such as a drought is not solely based on being able to take rapid action or implement immediate interventions, but also about being able to utilize existing resources, skills, and abilities that have been invested in over time. And for example, in this case, the City of Cape Town's Water Services Department over an extended period of time invested in building a strong, solid foundation. And it is for this reason that investing in doing the basics right should not be in any way underestimated, because this formed a key and critical way for how Cape Town was able to successfully navigate its drought. The success of being able to manage a drought, as I said, is based on a strong foundation. And this strong and solid foundation has been developed over the last 20 years, with Cape Town developing a water conservation and demand management strategy. This strategy has been globally recognized and includes a number of projects and programs. For example, ongoing investment in the replacement and upgrading of water and sanitation reticulation infrastructure, which has resulted in Cape Town achieving the lowest water loss rate than any other metropolitan municipality in South Africa. Other interventions also included education and awareness programs, leak detection and leak repair programs to assist indigent households with leak repairs and assist them with managing their household water consumption. This has contributed to Cape Town enjoying the status of having the lowest water use per capita than any other city in South Africa for many years now. This strategy has been instrumental in Cape Town being able to flatline its water consumption and de-link it from an ongoing economic growth and population growth, a trend that not many cities in the world have been able to achieve to date. In this long history and track record of a water-wise and a water-conscious city, this has essentially formed the basis of Cape Town being able to overcome its drought. So just in 3 short years, Cape Town was able to reduce its water consumption by 60%, a world record, and the city and its residents went from consuming about 1.2 billion liters of water per day to just under 500 million liters of water per day. And the city managed to achieve this through 3 key measures. One, physical demand management, and this entailed intensive pressure management through installing smart pressure controllers in multiple supply zones across the city, the installation of water demand management devices, which are essentially water meters that allow for household water consumption restriction. And our water pressure work alone saved the city about 70 million liters of water per day. And this work remains ongoing. Secondly, through a range of economic incentives, which incorporated restructuring the water and sanitation tariffs to not only ensure that they were more cost reflective, but also to ensure that tariffs were set to penalize high water users, particularly at a time where we could least afford high levels of water use. And the third key measure was through ongoing communication efforts through targeted campaigns and key messaging like Day Zero. This was supported through stakeholder engagement as well as a range of innovative web-orientated applications, such as the City of Cape Town's water use calculator, which allowed residents to calculate and monitor their daily water consumption, and our Green Dot Water Map, which essentially allowed households to not only monitor their own monthly consumption, but that of their neighbors and their broader community. And this web-based platform or application used the simple principle of peer pressure to encourage communities across the city to rapidly reduce their consumption in order to reach their much desired green dot status. The city was globally acknowledged for its water saving efforts by the International Water Association, but we weren't only recognized for our ability to reduce our consumption, but more importantly, we were able to do so without having to resort to any intermittent water supply. The city and its residents have definitely learned a lot from this drought, but I would like to hone in on 5 key learnings which have informed our future water plans. 1, Cape Town will remain vulnerable to climate change related risks, and there are multiple climate studies that show this, and we will need to plan for this. Secondly, our regional resource risks need to be better managed as we are dependent on a broader water supply system, which will require cooperative governance across multiple spheres of government. Thirdly, we will need to build ahead of time and diversify, because much of the augmentation schemes that provide significant additional water supply are quite large scale and incredibly expensive. And so the city, as part of reducing its risk for any future water security, will be investing in non-surface water solutions such as desalination, groundwater abstraction, as well as water reuse. Fourth, our Day Zero messaging had mixed impact. It was effective in that it helped us to rapidly reduce water consumption, but unfortunately, it also led to mistrust and lack of confidence in the municipal government. And the city remains hard at work to restoring that level of trust and confidence. And lastly, we were able to learn from international experience and make use of international expertise, which obviously allowed us to both save time as we were able to tap into world-class and leading technologies and advice. But learning from a drought surely isn't enough. And it is for this reason that the city of Cape Town made a concerted effort to take those learnings and lessons and translate it into action. And that action was in the form of the development of our water strategy. Our strategy sets out the vision to ensure Cape Town becomes a water sensitive city by 2040. And it makes 5 very important commitments to our residents. One, we are committing safe access to water and sanitation, and this speaks directly to ensuring we improved the daily experience of the most vulnerable residents, particularly those within our informal settlement areas that depend on water and sanitation through communal infrastructure. Secondly, we want to strike a fair and good balance between pricing and regulatory mechanisms through active citizenship to better manage our network. Thirdly, we intend on building additional sufficient and reliable supply from a diverse set of non-surface water solutions. And fourthly, our shared benefits and managed risks from this regional water resources is something that we deem a priority. We don't only want to invest in Cape Town's water future, we want to make use of this opportunity to also improve and increase water reliability within the broader Western Cape water supply system, which we form part of. And lastly, our key commitment is about ensuring Cape Town becomes a water resilient city by 2030 and a water sensitive city by 2040. Very ambitious targets and commitments that we make, but we are determined to achieve these. So Cape Town's water strategy sets out 5 commitments, which I've briefly touched on, and it is informed by 10 key principles. But there are 8 important things to understand or know about our water strategy and reliability of water for the future in respect of this growing city. One is that we will continue to rely on rain-fed dams for most of our water supply, as we build additional 300 milliliters of new capacity over the next 10 years. This will come from desalination, groundwater abstraction through aquifers, as well as water reuse, amongst many other water conservation and demand management interventions. The build program will reduce the likelihood of severe water restrictions in future, which will obviously aid economic growth. And fourth, the cost of more reliable water will be affordable because we will structure this through various financial and funding models and operating models, which will minimize the impact on residents in terms of tariff increases. And then the 5th most important thing to understand about Cape Town's water reliability is that the new infrastructure may not be used all of the time, but we believe that the investment would not be wasted, because this investment, we see it as a future climate insurance policy, essentially. And through the international expertise that we've been able to tap into, we've also been able to assess different global risk-based schemes to effectively manage augmentation schemes more optimally, particularly when they are not in use. And the 6th key important thing to understand or know about Cape Town's water reliability and our strategy is that desalination will become an important part of Cape Town's water future. This is one source of augmentation that is scalable and least dependent on rainfall. And Cape Town is obviously suitably located as a coastal city to maximize on this form of water augmentation. And then Cape Town will proactively address regional water risks, and we will require partnerships and the involvement and close working relationship between provincial government as well as our national government partners. And then we do foresee a changed relationship with water, and that this will be a permanent change. We see water as a finite resource, and we believe that we need to jointly protect this resource, and we can give water a second life and jointly or collectively enjoy in all of its prosperity. We wanted to ensure that we were transparent in the water strategy, and therefore we included a complete capital investment program that set out the various timeline deliverables and budgets that will be set aside towards implementation, because often strategies lack the sufficient or adequate information around how implementation will take place. And because this strategy was a commitment to our residents, we believed it was important to share this information. So these are the different augmentations that we will be investing in. They are in different stages of implementation, and some augmentation schemes have already started producing or providing a yield into our overall water supply. The strategy and the augmentation schemes have been stress tested to make provision for climate change impacts. And then this leads to my final slide, and our W12 team will be sharing a video. But in closing, I just wanted to say that the city has not only been able to manage, but more importantly, overcome a very serious drought. And we've been able to do so by pulling together as city and residents to ensure we build a far more secure water future. Our strategy can be considered as a foundational and enabling tool for our city, and an important commitment to our residents as we continue on our journey to build what we believe is a shared water future. And that then brings me to the end, and I want to say thank you very much.
Hey, South Africa. This is a message from Cape Town's bucket-bearing bodybuilders, late-night leak reporters and repairers, the water-saving succulent specialists, our pressure management magicians, the Waterwise schoolyard vigilantes, and the Cape's compulsive consumption calculators. It was tough, but together we refused to waste water. Now we're the #1 water-saving city in the world. Come and see for yourself. It might just change the way you think about water. The City of Cape Town, making progress possible together.
Thank you so much, Alderman Limburg. That was excellent. The two case studies that we've just featured are excellent examples of the array of case studies that you will find on the W12 Blueprint. They're innovative, creative, and highly impactful, but they aren't too specific that they won't be relevant for other places to learn from. I hope these case studies are prompting you to think about solutions that might be relevant for your own city or your own town. The types of case studies featured on the Blueprint are many, from policy case studies to technical solutions, citizen science projects, and the topics range from rainwater harvesting to wastewater treatment to borehole monitoring to low-income consumer department creation and much more. With your help, we hope to build out more and more solutions that can be shared widely. With that said, there are several ways to get involved. I'll now invite Anna to talk through the next steps for engaging with the Blueprint, and then we'll open up for a question and answer session. Anna?
Thanks, Ellie. So next steps, as I mentioned, and as I think Ellie and Rene have mentioned as well, this is the testing phase of the Blueprint. And what that means is that for the next month, we'll be opening up the Blueprint to those of you willing to provide feedback on a condensed version. So we intend to gather feedback on the functionality, the content, and the overall usefulness of the platform. And as we move forward, you have two options. So if interested, you can participate in the feedback process by first filling out the form that I believe my colleague from UNESCO is inputting into the chat and selecting yes. But let's see here. I can also give you a little brief description. This is what the form will look like. And I actually encourage you, even if you're not interested in participating in the feedback process, to fill out this form, because it will allow you to be a part of our newsletter, and then we can reach out to you when the Blueprint has gone live. And we will, oh, there we go. We will also email information on this feedback process following the conclusion of the webinar, including our user guide for the blueprint. So the testing and the feedback process will be about a 6-phase approach. And for those of you interested, we will select a representative sample and give you access to the blueprint on March 12th. We'll then go through a few phases of questions, testing, implementing changes, testing again, and then going live to present the new and improved blueprint to everyone on April 15th. And that way we can start sharing solutions through this newly accessible platform. So please do fill out the form. We are looking forward to collaborating with you on this. And with that being said, I'll pass it back on over to Ellie.
Great. We're going to open it up for question and answer sessions, and Dr. Verbist will be coming on to help moderate that. If you have questions, please use the raise hand function and we'll call on you. If you want to direct your question to a specific person, please just make that known and we can make sure the right person answers it. There are a few questions in the chat, one about translation, and I think that's something we honestly are thrilled with the breadth of response and interest in this, and we're definitely going to be looking into doing translations in the future, so I appreciate that comment. Everything will be recorded and available online. Do we have any? Not seeing any questions. If we have a good case study, how do we get in touch with you? Great question. Thank you, Larry. So if you fill out the interest form, there's an option that says, I want to provide feedback, and you can say yes or no, and you can just select no and then continue doing the rest of the form. And there's questions about, what types of solutions would you like to see more of, or types of case studies, what functionality would you like to see? So there's ways to provide feedback without necessarily going deep into providing feedback. We have a question that I think is for Maya Miko. I'm not sure if this is relevant, Maya, so feel free to say no, but how does the rejected water, how is it reused or disposed of? How does that protect the nearby water sources? And what is the community's role in managing that?
Yeah, thank you. I think we were already in touch on the chat with the one who questioned. I think he's directly more to the water utility company, because he's looking at rejected water from the treatment plant. And our duty or our project doesn't look into that element, but we actually look at the water that has already been treated and is being connected to the kiosks. So that's where we start off. But for the water utility, that's the question. I think the water utility company will be the one who could be in good position to handle that.
Perfect, thank you. And the W12 Blueprint is really intended for anybody working on issues of urban water security or urban water service provision, sanitation, etc. And when we say urban, we say that in a very broad sense. We talk about the watershed that supports a city. So we hope this is useful to a broad variety of audiences. Just looking through other questions.
Yeah, maybe Ellie, just to help you out here, I have a question that you answered already. Maybe it's good to give it to the floor again. The question is on the Blueprint database. Does it focus mainly on solutions, or does it give also the full narrative of the problem, including causes and socioeconomic vulnerabilities? Also, does it only cover narratives, or does it present also related spatial data sets? So far, we don't have any hands up, so anybody who would like to speak directly, please raise your hand and then we'll be able to unmute you.
Excellent. Yeah, that was a great question. So as we've mentioned a few times, the blueprint this is the beta phase, the testing phase, certainly the first version. And we are focusing on solutions at this stage. So right now, what is on there is mainly solutions, but the case studies that we wrote up are comprehensive, and they address the challenge that the solution addresses. However, moving forward, one of the next kind of functional elements to this that we'll be adding is the issues functionality. So each city will be linked to particular issues that city deals with, whether it's droughts or flooding or challenges with wastewater treatment or whatever it might be. And then cities can relate to each other in that way. And we'll be building that out. We're hoping to have that added by the time we go live. I don't want to promise that yet, or my team will probably kill me, but that is the goal.
And with regard to the spatial database, that is definitely something that we're looking into. We want to be able to, one, visually show the relationships between like cities and like solutions. So that's moving forward, a key piece that we are keeping in mind as we continue to develop the blueprint. And that information is really valuable for us if those are things that you're interested in.
Thanks, Anna. We have a couple of questions directed at Alderman Lindberg. One is, are there any different stakeholders that are being engaged in ensuring that these water reliability measures are going to be effective besides the City of Cape Town? Nope, you're muted. There you go. Okay.
For that. I purposely gave a context of Cape Town's water supply makeup to emphasize how dependent we are on other stakeholders. So our success in terms of achieving overall water reliability will require multiple stakeholders between the different spheres of government, who obviously have different constitutional responsibilities in relation to bulk water infrastructure, bulk water supply and distribution. But then there are other large users that form part of our supply system, such as agriculture, and within the Western Cape province, agriculture is quite a large sector within our economy, but that also means they're a large water user. They've been hard hit by the recent drought. And so water reliability is crucial for that economic sector as well. And so our strategy is purposely intended to be quite a holistic one, because it directly speaks to those different stakeholders. So in terms of some of the action items or commitments within the strategy, we plan on entering formal agreements with a range of different important stakeholders so that we can jointly work towards reliability. We see it as a joint benefit because we are codependent when it comes to our water supply network.
That's great, thank you. Another question for you, Alderman Lindberg. Could you please mention the borehole system that many Cape Town residents acquired on their properties?
So during the drought, we did encourage that residents look at alternative water supply sources to offset their demand on municipal water supply. This not only spoke to investing in boreholes or well point, but also reusing water around the home. So, once cooking, potentially using that water to flush your toilets. But those residents who were in a position to invest in alternative water supply did do so. So we saw a massive increase in boreholes and well points being installed across multiple private properties in Cape Town. Now, the legislation is quite flexible in that when one makes use or invests or installs any well point or borehole system for residential purposes, you don't require any permission from the National Department of Water and Sanitation. It's only when you start making use of quite excessive supply or you become a commercial user, that's when the requirements kick in. But this does mean that there isn't adequate monitoring and enforcement around the drawing into of this precious resource. So the City of Cape Town did put forward a number of policy amendments in terms of regulations to allow municipalities to start playing a more active role, because groundwater is actually the responsibility of national government, but we realize that they are also constrained in terms of capacity. So some of our amendments to our water bylaw does allow us to impose more clear restrictions around the use of boreholes and well points. And we are at this moment doing a door-to-door campaign where we are ensuring that any borehole and well point installations are compliant. We have unfortunately had incidents of contamination because of non-compliance around installation. And so we believe that to preserve this resource going forward and to protect the overall health and safety of our residents, this is a resource that we are going to have to actively manage more closely, which we are doing through both regulations, programs, as well as working with other partners like academia, etc.
Thank you. That's great. We have a question from Johnston, who's from Kenya. Could the database include potential funders to some transformative water innovations? And yes, what we're really excited about is being this connector, right? Bringing the different parties together to launch new projects or innovations that, for whatever reason, whether it's technical expertise or funding or the policymakers, whichever kind of where the breaking point is, we hope to facilitate the process to make these solutions come to life. So that is a core goal for W12. That one. There's a couple of questions about just how to get involved. So I suggest that if you have case studies to share with us or want to be involved, just do fill out that interest form, and then we'll know kind of exactly how you want to be involved with us, and we will follow up accordingly. You also, I can put my email in the chat, and I welcome any emails about any of this. So there you go. Let's see. We have one question about dead rivers, and that isn't something we've covered in this panel. If any of our speakers do have an answer to that, so the best way to bring back the dead rivers. In India, there are many dead rivers that are already declared as such. I think that's an interesting question, and the sort of thing that that the feedback form will tell us to look at, right? And we can identify case studies that show solutions to this issue.
Another question, Ellie, is about, is it only for water managers or also can civil society participate?
Yeah, so we welcome anybody to participate, anyone who's working on issues of urban water systems, and again, urban water very generally. So it's for the academics, for students, for those decision makers, for financiers, for project managers who want new ideas of things to do perhaps in the nonprofit they work with. Across the board, we hope this is helpful for a variety of users.
May I comment on the dead rivers?
Please, yes.
So as part of Cape Town's water strategy, I touched on the one objective or ambition and vision becoming a water sensitive city, which speaks to the ability of a city to integrate all sources of water for the benefit of all citizens within that city. And that speaks to rivers, it speaks to wastewater, spring water, and obviously potable water. And so there are some leading cities in the space, like Singapore, for example, who is considered a water sensitive city. And so the city, our city is intending on learning from them, as well as other cities that we believe they are, shared ability to understand some key learnings. But as part of the strategy, we've set out to create livable urban waterways. This doesn't only speak to things such as water quality, which is obviously important, but it also speaks to creating or developing rivers into safe social recreational spaces, because often dead rivers are also spaces where anti-social behavior takes place. So it's a joint effort that is required through partnership, because government cannot do it on its own. But I would suggest, and what we're doing in our case, because we also have a number of river catchments, is to start off with one and to pilot the improvement of that through a targeted water quality improvement program, and to then monitor the success of that, and obviously make the necessary tweaks wherever needed, and then to replicate that for other catchments within the city. And obviously residents are going to be a key component of that effort, but also sharing water quality data around the state or condition of rivers is important. So we've actually just launched our inland water quality report. It's not a pretty report. It very much transparently and truthfully states the condition of our rivers and canals. But that's the first step to bring about awareness and to try and bring on other role players to understand what their role can be in assisting improving water quality. So the city is started in one portion of the city, and we hope then to extend and expand our pilot of that water quality improvement into other critical catchments. I hope that assists.
We also have a question from the floor. It's okay, Ali, I will just allow Durairaj to just briefly give some comments. Please keep it short. You're now able to speak. Durairaj, if you...
Yes. I'm from Chennai in India. Hello.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm from Chennai here. Once upon a time in Chennai, there are more than 2,000 lakes in Chennai, but now there are really a few hundred. What is the reason you think the water bodies is coming down by year? What can we do to restore the water bodies?
I think Alderman Limburg, is there anything you'd want to expand on from the previous talk about what we can do for these dead rivers?
So in the case of Cape Town, it's an incredibly complex solution that's required, because within an urban environment, there are so many different sources of pollution. In Cape Town's case, we are a growing city with informality. Apologies, that's my dog. With informality, and that often means, and over the lockdown, unfortunately, we've also seen an increase in land invasions. And the current lockdown regulations don't permit any action to be taken in respect to this. But land invasions also often occur in spaces where the city cannot connect residents to formal water and sanitation services or infrastructure. And so a lot of that waste also enters our water bodies. And then there's pollution from commerce and industry. And so it's about targeting all of those sources of pollution. And some of them require investment in formal water and sanitation services within informal settlements, which is the case in South Africa. But also others require greater enforcement around ensuring that there's compliance for industry and commerce, because often they discharge inappropriate substances or items within our stormwater and river bodies. But then in the case of Cape Town with the agriculture sector, and many of our rivers obviously are also not within our municipal boundaries, and we also believe that there's over abstraction from agriculture and therefore we require the involvement of other spheres of government to ensure that there isn't over abstraction, because that obviously does lead to a range of other challenges once the water body actually enters our boundaries. So it's a really multi-layered solution, but that does require one to be able to isolate each of the specific sources of pollution and then target the necessary interventions towards addressing each of those. Obviously, wastewater treatment plants are also a big contributor into waterways. And so that requires municipalities to ensure that there's ongoing investment in wastewater treatment to ensure effluent is of suitable quality. And all of these are interventions that will over time improve water quality. I think it's important to understand that improved water quality within our rivers or urban waterways cannot be achieved overnight. It is a long-term journey that you have to invest in, and that requires ongoing efforts from a multiple set of stakeholders.
Thank you. That's great. We have time for one more final question. And before I raise that final question, which also will be directed at Alderman Limburg, lots of questions for you today. I just want to remind everybody to please fill out the feedback form and also to reach out to us via email with any questions. We are receiving a lot of questions about access and just ways to get involved. So we are more than happy to engage that way. So our final question is, can the water conservation method in Cape Town be actually applied in other parts of Africa? And what are the basic requirements for that to happen?
To answer that question, yes, I believe that it can be applied because it does touch on some key basic things that I think cities or municipalities across the world need to invest in. So things such as ongoing investment in reticulation infrastructure to minimize water losses within the system. And during droughts, that is probably the most affordable intervention. Water supply augmentations are incredibly expensive to invest in and sustain and manage over time. But investing in your infrastructure on an annual basis actually has long-term benefits and savings. So that's number one. And then the involvement and awareness of residents. In the case of Cape Town, the reason why our education and awareness and communication efforts were so focused on residents is because they actually make up 70% of our water users. In other cities, the makeup is slightly different where they have a larger component of industry. But in our case, residents consume the most water, and particularly residents in formal properties. And so we had ongoing education programs that started, within our schools and continues in all public spaces. We did do a leak detection and leak repair program to assist more vulnerable households that have leaks but don't have the money to hire a plumber, for example. These are efforts that the city invested in to assist those households because there's a joint return. We assist the household in repairing their leak, but at the same time, we avoid any water losses within our system. And we avoid that household from running a really high water bill, which they possibly won't be able to pay off. And then there are things such as, trying to better manage catchment areas. So as I mentioned, Cape Town draws its supply from what we call the Western Cape Water Supply System. There are 6 large dams within that system when we draw supply. 3 of those dams are within our municipal boundaries, so we assist with managing those. And we've had a long-standing alien vegetation plant removal program because this over time does increase yield into our dams during rainfall. And so it's some of those basics as part of water conservation and demand management that I think pays off over time and ensures that municipalities are better prepared to deal with drought, which will become a far more frequent occurrence in the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll now hand it back over to Cohen and Alexandros.
I'm sorry, I'm back. Thank you very much first of all, to all of our panelists for exciting presentations, for presenting, first of all, the tool, right, itself, and the opportunity to cooperate in disseminating practices like the one that we saw, both in Malawi and in Cape Town, practices that people should know about. There are a lot of times this is something that we have found also within UNESCO, and that's one part of our work is the networking. There are people who need solutions, especially solutions that have been applied, right? And not just theoretical, but they have been applied on the ground. The people that need guidance, that they are starting from zero. So this tool will give them that opportunity, that will give them that resource that they require to be able to start their own work at their own place. But of course, they were not here for that part of the work. We're here more for the user requirements. We saw already a couple of people who expressed their interest in providing their case studies, and this is very encouraging. I would like to again invite all of our guests, who more than 100, to give us also some feedback on the whole structure of the tool. If they think that it's not user-friendly, how it can be improved, etc. And again, to make a last appeal for everyone who has or knows people who have such case studies, to come on forward and contact us via the form or even via an email initially if they didn't have a chance to participate on today's session, in order to ensure that these good case studies will be part of the blueprint. Now, having said that, we are at the closing of the session. From my end, before I pass the speech to my colleague, Kun, I would like to thank you all. From a global perspective, like I said, this makes sense to us as UNESCO, and that's why we have partnered with W12 Plus to do this. We're extremely happy to see how Cape Town came out of a very difficult situation and how now it has moved to the driver's seat and is trying to showcase and send a little bit of a message to the rest of the cities out there on how things can be done and how planning should be part of your everyday life and plan ahead, especially with water, which is just like energy. You need to think ahead. And I would like to thank all of the 150 almost participants that were with us today, and to look forward to hearing from them. Thank you very much also for the invite from your side. And with that, I'm closing my part and I'm passing it to Kun. Kun?
Right, thank you very much, Alex. And I think, yeah, we all agree that it's time for solutions. And I think there's also no need for reinventing the wheel here. So sharing is the way to go. And I think this database will help us indeed to find those elements and to see how we can collaborate further among the global audience to make sure that those messages and experiences are shared. From UNESCO point of view, we're happy to further support the database development. Of course, the first phase that we have embarked on was to make sure that the Southern African cities were engaged in this process, to make sure they're actively engaged in terms of knowing about the tool, but also to share available solutions already from the region so that they can be shared effectively. But of course, we want to expand also to other regions, particularly the whole of Africa. But of course, we see today a large audience globally. And I think it's important to tap into that and to make sure that this database indeed brings global solutions to the table. So I'll just stop here. I think it was a very interesting session. I learned a lot as well. And I also hope that with the database, we can keep exchanging good solutions here. And I'll just give the word then to Rene Frank to finalize this workshop and close for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Koen. Yeah, I would like to thank all of you for your time and for being here with us today. We saw a lot of great questions. We saw a lot of interaction. Unfortunately, we also had a little bit some technical issues to get all people on. We actually were more than 500 that was supposed to be on right now. But we will reach out to each individual to make sure that they get the recording, and we also get in contact with you. A very special thanks to our two guest speakers from Cape Town and from Malawi. It was incredibly interesting to hear your perspective, and we have, especially with Cape Town, had a great collaboration for many years now. So we really think about that. Then also we would like to say that at W12 Plus, we really engage and we seek partnerships. So please do reach out to us. We will always respond, and we are very, very keen of hearing as many both good and bad and positive feedback, so that we can really implement that into our system and keep improving, because it is really user driven. Then as a last thing, I will just say again, we will be very excited to invite us to our next event, which will be on March 18th, where we are touching upon an exchange series where we have been talking a lot about driving change for water security during COVID. There's a lot of interesting things happening there on our water resources. We have seen globally water usage go up tremendously in certain areas. We have seen water saving initiative on a global scale that can really be interesting to share with all of you. So we are continuously learning from all these very innovative and smart systems that are out there. And that is it for us for today. I hope you have enjoyed the session, and we look forward to engage with all of you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Rene, I will write to you now for Johannesburg. Bye.